In the vast, glittering arena of Zorath's royal coliseum, where stars seemed to pierce through the domed ceiling like diamonds on black velvet, the air hummed with tension. Princess Zara, heir to the throne of Zorathia, stood at the center, her white hair cascading like a waterfall of moonlight over her porcelain skin. Her body, curvaceous and alluring, was draped in a gown of shimmering fabric that clung to her like a second skin, elegant, yet revealing, accentuating every graceful curve. Small pointed ears peeked from beneath her locks, giving her an ethereal elfin charm that belied of the ferocity in her emerald eyes. She was no delicate flower. Zara was a warrior princess, her skin impervious to blades and lasers, her form capable of shifting into deadly shapes at will. Legends whispered of her conquests of challengers from distant worlds, their bones now decorating the palace halls. The crowd, a mosaic of alien species from across the galaxy, murmured in hushed, awed ambassadors with tentacles, warriors with scaled hides, and diplomats with glowing auras filled the stands, all drawn to this ancient ritual. Zara's voice boomed, amplified by the arena's tech, echoing like thunder across the void. "Is no one brave enough to face me?" She roared, her tone a mix of challenge and disdain. "I seek a worthy opponent, one who can match my strength, my cunning. Step forward or forever bow to Zorathia's might." Silence fell thick and oppressive. Eyes darted away, tails tucked between legs, antennae drooping in fear. No one moved. Zara's lips curled into a smirk, her pointed ears twitching slightly as she scanned the throng. She had expected this, her reputation preceded her like a shadow. But deep down a flicker of boredom stirred. What good was power if no one dared to test it? Then from the shadows of the visitors' gallery a single hand rose. It belonged to Jake, a human pilot from the distant colony of Terra Nova. He wasn't a towering figure like the Zorathian guards. His frame was lean, honed by years of dodging asteroids and outrunning pirate fleets in his battered starfighter. Dark hair tousled from his helmet, blue eyes steady and unflinching. Jake wore a simple flight suit, scarred from countless skirmishes. He had come to Zorath not for glory, but on a desperate mission to negotiate aid for his starving world amid a cosmic famine. Yet here he was compelled by some inexplicable pull, raising his hand in a sea of cowards. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "A human?" someone hissed. "Those fragile apes from the edge of the galaxy?" Zara's gaze locked onto him, her emerald eyes narrowing in curiosity. Humans were rare visitors here, known more for their ingenuity than brute force. She tilted her head, her white hair swaying, and beckoned him forward with a graceful wave. "You little one," she called, her voice now laced with intrigue. "Approach and let us see if your courage matches your folly." Jake descended the steps, his boots echoing on the crystalline floor. His heart pounded not from fear, but from the electric charge in the air. He had heard tales of Zorathian rituals, challenges that could forge alliances or end lives. As he neared her, he caught the subtle scent of alien blooms clinging to her skin, a fragrance that was both intoxicating and otherworldly. Zara towered slightly over him, her gowned form radiating an aura of untouchable allure. Up close, her small elfin ears seemed almost delicate, contrasting the fierce set of her jaw. "Why you?" she demanded, circling him slowly, her hips swaying with predatory grace. The crowd leaned in, breaths held. Jake met her eyes without flinching. "Because someone has to," he replied simply, his voice steady. "And I've faced worse odds in the void." A murmur of laughter and disbelief spread. Zara paused, her impervious skin shimmering under the lights. For the first time in cycles she felt a spark of genuine interest. This human wasn't trembling, he was intriguing. "Very well." She purred, her tone shifting to something almost playful. "The challenge begins. But know this, if you survive you claim more than victory. In Zorathia the victor claims the heart or the throne." The arena erupted in cheers, as holographic barriers flickered to life, enclosing them in a dome of energy. Jake's mind raced. He had no weapons beyond his wits, and a hidden EMP device tucked in his suit, a relic from his piloting days designed to short-circuit enemy ships. Zara's form began to shift subtly, her arms elongating into whip-like tendrils, her eyes glowing with anticipation. The fight was on, but beneath the impending clash, something deeper stirred, a connection born of defiance and desire in a galaxy where humans were often underestimated. As the first strike came, Zara lunged with blinding speed, her tendril whipping toward him like a serpent. Jake dodged, rolling aside with the agility of a pilot evading missiles. The crowd gasped again. This wasn't just a battle, it was the start of something forbidden, a dance between worlds that could shatter empires or ignite passions unspoken. Zara retracted her limb, reforming it into an elegant hand, her chest heaving slightly, not from exertion but from the thrill. Impressive human, she admitted, her voice a low whisper that carried over the hum of the barriers. But can you keep up? She shifted again, her body morphing into a more fluid form, curves accentuating, as if to taunt him. Jake circled her, his eyes tracing the lines of her gown, the way it hugged her white-skinned figure. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was drawn to her, this alien princess who embodied both danger and allure. He feinted left, then darted right, his hand brushing against her side in a near miss. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, her skin, though unbreakable, tingled at his touch. "What's your name, challenger?" she asked mid-strike, her tendril grazing his shoulder, tearing fabric but not flesh. "Jake," he grunted, countering with a swift kick that she blocked effortlessly. "And yours?" "Zara," she replied, a smile playing on her lips for the first time. The crowd was on the edge now, sensing the shift from mere combat to something intimate. As they clashed again, bodies, close breaths, mingling, the arena faded. It was just them, human and alien, locked in a ritual that promised more than blood. But Jake had a plan. As Zara pressed her advantage, shifting into a towering form to overwhelm him, he activated the EMP subtly, a pulse hidden in his palm. It wasn't enough to harm her, but it disrupted her shape-shifting, momentarily forcing her back to her natural, stunning self. She stumbled, eyes wide in surprise. "What sorcery is this?" "Not sorcery," Jake said, closing the distance, his hand gently but firmly grasping her arm. "Just human ingenuity." The barriers flickered, the crowd roaring. Zara didn't pull away, instead, she leaned in, her emerald eyes searching his. In that moment, the challenge transcended the physical. She saw in him not weakness but a fire that matched her own. As the dome lowered, declaring a rare draw unheard of in Zorathian history, the princess extended her hand. "You have earned an audience, Jake of Terra Nova. But beware, in my world courage leads to deeper entanglements." He took her hand, feeling the warmth beneath her impervious exterior. Little did he know this was only the beginning of a cosmic romance fraught with peril and passion. The royal guards escorted them from the arena, whispers following like echoes. Zara walked beside him, her gown swishing softly. Her small elfin ears perked in curiosity. "Tell me, human," she said as they entered the opulent halls of the palace, walls adorned with glowing crystals. "What drives a man like you to risk everything against one like me?" Jake glanced at her, noting how the light danced on her white hair, making her seem almost luminous. "Desperation mostly. My people need aid, food shipments, tech to survive the famine. But also you. There's something about you that calls to the adventurer in me." She laughed, a melodic sound that echoed through the corridors. "Flattery from a conqueror, how quaint. In Zorathia we don't mince words. If you seek alliance, you must prove worthy beyond the arena." They arrived at her private chambers, a vast room overlooking Zorath's twin moons. Servants with shimmering scales bowed and retreated, leaving them alone. Zara poured a glowing elixir into crystalline goblets, handing one to him. "Drink. It will heal any wounds from our dance." Jake sipped the liquid, warm and invigorating, chasing away the ache in his muscles. As they sat on plush cushions, the conversation flowed like a river, stories of his spacefaring exploits, her burdens as heir to a warring throne. Hours passed, the moons rising higher, and with each word the barrier between them thinned. Zara leaned closer, her gowned form brushing his leg. "You intrigue me, Jake. Humans are said to be fragile, yet you stand unbroken." Her hand traced his arm, sending shivers through him. The air grew heavy with unspoken desire, the erotic tension building like a storm. He met her gaze, his voice husky. "Fragile maybe. But we adapt, we feel deeply." His fingers intertwined with hers, feeling the subtle texture of her skin, smooth yet resilient. In that quiet moment under the moonlit sky, their worlds collided, not in battle, but in a tentative embrace that promised fireworks. As the night deepened, Zara's eyes darkened with intent. "Show me more of this human resilience," she whispered, pulling him toward the silken bed. The challenge had evolved from fists to hearts, and neither could turn back now, as the silken sheets whispered beneath them. Zara's pull was both commanding and inviting, her fingers lingering on Jake's wrist like a promise of secrets yet unveiled. The chamber's ambient glow softened the edges of everything, casting shadows that danced across her porcelain skin, highlighting the elegant dip of her collarbone and the subtle rise of her chest with each breath. Jake felt the air, thick and charged with an electricity that hummed between them, born not just from the adrenaline of their earlier clash, but from something primal, unspoken. He allowed her to guide him, his body responding to the warmth radiating from her form, so close now that he could feel the faint vibration of her shape-shifting essence. Like a current just beneath the surface. She paused at the edge of the bed, turning to face him fully, her emerald eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. The gown she wore, a masterpiece of Zorathian craftsmanship, clung to her curves in ways that teased the eye, translucent in places, opaque where it mattered, revealing hints of the sensual lines beneath, without giving everything away. Her white hair fell in loose waves, framing her small pointed ears that twitched ever so slightly, as if attuned to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Resilience, she murmured, her voice a velvet caress that sent shivers down his spine. I've heard tales of human endurance, but words are cheap. Prove it to me, Jake. Here in the quiet of my domain, where no crowds cheer and no barriers divide us. He swallowed hard, the elixir still buzzing in his veins, heightening every sensation. The room smelled of her exotic spices, mingled with the faint ozone of distant storms, a scent that wrapped around him like an embrace. Jake reached out his hand, brushing a strand of her hair aside, feeling its silky texture slip through his fingers. It was cooler than he expected, like touching starlight made tangible. And what if I do? He asked, his tone low and teasing, though his body betrayed the growing tension, muscles coiling in anticipation. What then, Princesto? I win your throne or something more? Zara's lips parted in a slow, knowing smile, her breath warm against his cheek as she leaned in closer. The space between them vanished inch by inch, her body pressing lightly against his, the fabric of her gown, a thin veil that did little to hide the heat building there. She traced a finger along the tear in his flight suit, where her tendril had grazed him earlier, the touch lingering, exploratory. In Zorathia, victories are savored slowly, she whispered, her voice dropping to a husky timbre that resonated through him. But first you must survive the night. Her hand slid up his arm, nails grazing his skin, just enough to elicit a sharp intake of breath, the sensation electric, promising more. The bed was vast, a sea of deep crimson silks that seemed to swallow them as she eased him down, her movements fluid and predatory, like a cat toying with its prey. Jake's back met the softness, but his eyes never left hers, drawn into the depths of those emerald pools where curiosity mingled with desire. She straddled him gracefully, her thighs bracketing his hips, the weight of her both light and commanding. Through the gown he could feel the firmness of her body, the subtle shift, as her form adapted ever so slightly, not to attack, but to fit against him perfectly, as if her alien physiology was attuned to this very moment. Her small elfin ears flushed a faint p, a telltale sign of her arousal that he noted with a thrill of discovery. You fought well in the arena, she continued, her hands now roaming over his chest, unfastening the clasps of his suit with deliberate slowness. Each click echoed in the quiet room, building the suspense like a countdown to an explosion. Jake's skin prickled under her touch, exposed inch by inch to the cool air and her heated gaze. But that was child's play. Here the rules are different. No weapons, no tricks, just you and me. Her fingers danced lower, tracing the lines of his abdomen, feeling the taut muscles honed from years in zero-gravity cockpits. He arched slightly, involuntarily, the contact sending waves of heat through him. Jake's hands found her waist, gripping the fabric of her gown, feeling the way it molded to her sensual curves. She was a vision body, arched above him, white hair spilling like a cascade, her pointed ears framing a face that was equal parts regal and wild. He pulled her closer, their faces inches apart, breaths mingling in the charged space. Then let's play by your rules, he murmured, his lips brushing hers in a feather-light tease that made her gasp softly. The sound was intoxicating, a vulnerability in her otherwise unbreakable facade. He deepened the kiss tentative, at first exploring the softness of her lips, tasting the faint sweetness of the elixir on her tongue. Zara responded with a fervor that caught him off guard, her mouth claiming his in a dance of passion that built like a gathering storm. Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling him nearer, while her body pressed down the friction between them, igniting sparks that traveled straight to his core. The gown shifted with her movements, revealing more of her porcelain skin, smooth and flawless, inviting his touch. He obliged, his palms sliding up her back, feeling the subtle ridges where her shape-shifting capabilities lay dormant, like hidden power waiting to unleash. She moaned into the kiss, a low throaty sound that vibrated through him, heightening the erotic tension, until it was almost unbearable. But even in this haze of desire, suspense lingered like a shadow. Jake's mind flickered to the hidden EMP device still tucked in his discarded suit, nearby insurance he had thought, but now, it felt like a relic from another life. What if this was a trap? Zorathian rituals were infamous for their twists. Alliances, forged in passion, could shatter just as easily. Yet as Zara broke the kiss, her eyes heavy-lidded and gleaming, he pushed the doubt aside. She trailed kisses down his neck, her teeth grazing his skin just enough to send jolts of pleasure, pain, her breath hot and ragged. "Tell me, human." She purred against his collarbone, her voice laced with seduction. "Do you fear what comes next, or do you crave it?" His response was a growl of affirmation, his hands exploring the contours of her body, slipping beneath the gown to caress the soft, yielding flesh of her thighs. She was warm there, surprisingly human in her reactions, her hips rocking subtly against him in a rhythm that built suspense with every motion. The room seemed to pulse with their energy, the twin moons outside casting silvery light that played across her form, accentuating every curve, every shadow. Zara's small ears twitched again, sensitive to the sounds of his quickening breath, and she smiled wickedly, knowing she held the power, yet intrigued by how he matched her move for move. Time stretched each touch, a layer of building intensity. She peeled away the remnants of his suit, exposing him fully, her gaze appreciative, almost reverent. "So vulnerable," she whispered, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest, circling lower with agonizing slowness. "Yet so strong." Jake's body responded, taut and ready, the erotic pull between them undeniable. He flipped their positions in a sudden move, drawing a surprised laugh from her, a sound that was music to his ears. Now above her, he pinned her wrists gently, his lips finding the sensitive point of her elfin ear, nibbling lightly, and eliciting a shiver that ran through her entire frame. Zara arched beneath him, her gown falling open like petals unfurling, revealing the full allure of her body, curves that begged to be explored, skin glowing like polished marble under the moonlight. The suspense hung in the air. Would she shift, use her abilities to overpower him, or would she surrender to this human who had dared to challenge her? Her eyes met his dark with want, and she whispered, "Don't stop now, Jake. Show me everything." He obliged, his mouth trailing down her neck across the swell of her breasts, tasting the salt of her skin mingled with that alien fragrance. Each kiss built the tension, her gasps growing more urgent, her body writhing in ways that spoke of desires long denied. The erotic dance continued, hands and lips exploring uncharted territories, the line between conqueror and conquered blurring into something mutual, intoxicating. Jake felt her fingers dig into his back, urging him on, the heat between them rising like a supernova, ready to burst. Yet beneath the passion, a thread of mystery wove through whispers of court, intrigues, the famine on his world, the alliance they might forge. But for now those faded into the background, overshadowed by the immediate pulsing need. Zara's legs wrapped around him, pulling him closer, her breath coming in short, heated bursts. The night was young, and the depths of their connection were only beginning to unfold, each moment laced with suspense, each touch a step deeper into the unknown. As their bodies moved in harmony, the chamber filled with the soft symphony of their shared rhythm, building toward an inevitable crescendo. Zara's voice, when she spoke again, was breathless, laced with a vulnerability that surprised even her. You're more than I expected," she admitted, her hands roaming freely now, igniting fires wherever they landed. Jake smiled against her skin, his own desires mirroring hers, the erotic pull unbreakable. The hours slipped away in this haze, suspense coiling tighter with every whispered word, every lingering caress. What started as a challenge had become a revelation, two souls from distant stars, finding common ground in the most intimate of ways. And as the first hints of dawn crept through the windows, casting a golden hue over their entwined forms, Jake knew this was no fleeting encounter, it was the spark of something that could reshape galaxies. But even in ecstasy, questions lingered. Could a human truly claim the heart of a Zorathian princessor? Was this the prelude to a greater test? Erotic tension held them captive, unwilling to release as they delved deeper into the night's embrace. As the golden light of dawn filtered through the ornate windows, painting their skin in warm strokes, Jake traced lazy patterns along Zara's back, feeling the subtle hum of her alien physiology beneath his fingertips, a reminder that this union was as extraordinary as it was intense. She nestled against him, her white hair splayed across his chest like a silken veil, her small elfin ears brushing his shoulder with every soft breath. The chamber, once a sanctuary of passion, now held a quiet intimacy, the kind that follows storms of desire, where words felt unnecessary yet inevitable. But in the recesses of his mind, those lingering questions using to fade with the night, he shaped himself up on a one-bubble-elding elbow, gazing down at her, marveling at how her impervious skin, so unyielding in battle, yielded now to the gentlest touch. Zara, he began, his voice a low rumble that stirred her from the haze of contentment. She lifted her head, emerald eyes meeting his with a mix of satiation and that ever-present curiosity, her lips curving into a faint, enigmatic smile. This. It's more than just a ritual, isn't it? Back in the arena, you mentioned claiming hearts or thrones. What does that really mean for someone like me, an outsider from a dying colony? She shifted, propping herself up to mirror his position, the sheets pooling around her waist and revealing the elegant lines of her form, still flushed from their shared exertions. Her gown lay discarded somewhere on the floor, a forgotten relic of the evening's transformation. In Zorathia, challenges aren't mere spectacles, she replied, her tone weaving drama into every syllable as if recounting an ancient epic. They bind fates. You didn't just survive me, Jake, you matched me. That makes you eligible. But eligibility comes with shadows. Her fingers danced along his arm, a light touch that belied the weight of her words, drawing him deeper into the web of intrigue. Before he could press further, a distant rumble echoed through the palace walls, not thunder but something mechanical, ominous. The ground trembled faintly and Zara's pointed ears perked up sharply, her body tensing like a coiled spring. What was that? Jake asked, sitting up fully now, his pilot instincts kicking in, scanning the room for threats. The thrill of the unknown surged through him, mingling with the remnants of their passion to create a heady cocktail of adrenaline. Zara's expression darkened, a storm cloud passing over her regal features. She slipped from the bed with fluid grace, her naked form moving like liquid silver in the dawn light, every curve a testament to her otherworldly beauty. Intruders, she whispered, her voice laced with a thrilling edge of danger. The palace shields should hold, but this feels deliberate. She waved a hand and holographic displays flickered to life around them, projecting feeds from the outer perimeters. Jake's eyes widened as he saw it. Sleek shadowy vessels piercing the atmosphere, their hulls etched with unfamiliar insignia, rival clans from the fringes of the galaxy, perhaps, or worse, internal betrayers sensing weakness in Zorathia's throne. The curiosity burned in him, now sharp and insistent. Who would dare attack the heart of Zorath, and why now in this vulnerable afterglow? Zara's hands moved swiftly over the controls, her white hair whipping as she turned to him. My court has fractures, ambitious lords who see my rituals as folly. They must have learned of our encounter. Her eyes met his again, a spark of surprise flickering there, as if realizing the depth of the bond they'd forged. You, a human, have become the catalyst. Jake rose, pulling on his flight suit with practiced efficiency. The fabric still torn from their earlier clash. The dramatic shift from lovers to allies thrilled him, his heart pounding not just from fear, but from the rush of standing beside her against the odds. Then let's face them together, he said, his voice steady, infused with that unyielding human spirit that had drawn her to him. But as he spoke, a surprising twist unfolded on the holograms. One of the invading ships bore markings from Terra Nova, his own colony. Betrayaler, a desperate ploy. Curiosity clawed at him, turning the moment into a whirlwind of questions. Zara whirled, her form beginning to shift, subtly armor-like scales emerging along her arms and torso, transforming her sensual figure into a weaponized vision of elegance and lethality. "You recognize that sigil?" she demanded, her tone dramatic, echoing the climax building around them. The palace alarms blared, now a symphony of urgency that propelled them into action. Jake nodded, his mind racing. "It's from my people, but this doesn't make sense. We're starving, not invading." The thrill intensified as realizations dawned. Perhaps his arrival had been manipulated a pawn in a larger game. They burst from the chamber's Zara, leading the way through labyrinthine corridors, alive with chaos. Guards with glowing energy lances rushed past, their scaled faces etched with determination. Explosions rocked the structure, sending crystalline shards raining down like deadly confetti. Jake dodged a falling beam, grabbing Zara's hand mid-stride, the contact electric even in peril. "Stay close," she commanded, but there was a curious vulnerability in her voice, as if this human's presence was rewriting her script. As they reached the Grand Hall, the climax erupted in full force. Invaders poured through breached doors, hulking figures in dark armor wielding plasma rifles that scorched the air. Zara leaped into the fray, her body morphing into a blur of tendrils and blades, slicing through the first wave with thrilling precision. One assailant lunged at her, but she twisted her impervious skin, deflecting a blast that would have felled lesser beings. Jake, unarmed but undaunted, spotted a fallen guard's weapon and snatched it up, firing bursts of energy that lit the hall like fireworks. The dramatic clash unfolded like a ballet of destruction, Zara's graceful shifts contrasting Jake's raw, improvised tactics, dodging behind pillars, using the environment like he would asteroid fields in his fighter. A surprising revelation hit as Jake recognized one invader's voice crackling over comms. "The human is the key, capture him alive." His own peopled curiosity piqued, thrilling and disorienting. "Why him?" Zara overheard, her eyes widening in mid-strike as she impaled an enemy with a extended limb. "What secrets do you hide, Jake?" she shouted over the din, her voice a mix of accusation and intrigue, adding layers to the drama. He fought back to back with her now, their movements syncing in a thrilling harmony born of their night's intimacy. A blast grazed his shoulder, searing pain that he pushed through with gritted teeth, human resilience shining through. Zara spun, her form expanding to shield him, taking a hit that crackled against her skin but left her unscathed. "Not on my watch," she growled, her emerald eyes fierce, protective. The bond deepened in the heat of battle, each parry and shot a testament to their surprising connection. But the invaders pressed on, their numbers swelling. Jake's mind whirled. The EMP device, he still had it tucked away. As a massive brute charged, wielding a vibro axe, Jake activated it in a desperate surge, the pulse rippling out and short-circuiting the enemy's armor, sending him crumpling in a heap of sparks. Zara laughed, a wild dramatic sound amid the chaos. "Your tricks never cease to amaze." The thrilling pace accelerated as they pushed toward the throne room, the heart of the invasion. Holographic maps revealed the lead ship landing in the courtyard, its ramp deploying more troops. Curiosity burned brighter. What if this was tied to the famine, a false flag to force Zorathia's hand? Jake voiced it breathlessly between shots. "My colony's desperation, someone's exploiting it. But who?" Zara's response was cut short by a surprising ambush. A cloaked figure emerged from the shadows, not an invader, but a Zorathian lord, her own advisor, his face twisted in betrayal. "The throne is mine, princess," he sneered, raising a disruptor tuned to her frequencies. The drama peaked, the air thick with tension. Jake reacted instinctively, tackling the traitor, the two rolling in a tangle of limbs. Punches flew, the lord's strength augmented by tech, but Jake's street smart brawling honed in colony scraps gave him an edge. He pinned the advisor, wrenching the weapon free, just as Zara arrived, her form shifting to restrain him with unbreakable tendrils. "You!" she gasped, the surprise etching deep lines on her face, her voice trembling with dramatic betrayal. The advisor spat, "Your weakness for this human filth exposed us. The invaders are my allies, Terra Nova's puppets, bought with promises of food." The revelation thrilled through them like a shockwave, a conspiracy bridging worlds with Jake at its center. In that climactic moment, as more enemies closed in, Zara and Jake stood united, the curious threads of fate weaving tighter. She looked at him, emerald eyes alight with a mix of fury and admiration. "We end this now," she declared, her body glowing with power. Together they charged forward, the battle's crescendo building to an unforgettable peak, hearts pounding in sync amid the surprising twists of destiny. The throne room doors loomed, blasts echoing like thunder. Jake felt the thrill course through him. This wasn't just survival, it was transcendence. Zara's hand brushed his in a fleeting touch, reigniting the spark from their night, turning fear into fuel. As they burst through, facing the invasion's core, a towering commander flanked by drones, the dramatic stakes soared. "For Zorathia," Zara roared, leaping into the fray. "And for us," Jake added silently, his shots precise, his resolve unbreakable. Surprises unfolded rapidly. The commander unmasked, revealing a hybrid, part Zorathian, part machine, Zara's long-lost sibling, presumed dead in ancient wars. "Sister," he intoned, his voice mechanical yet laced with emotion. "Join me or perish with your pet human." The curiosity exploded. Family betrayal. The room crackled with energy, drones whirring to life, the climax teetering on the edge of oblivion. Zara hesitated, her form flickering, vulnerability cracking her armor. Jake stepped forward, EMP primed for a final gambit. "She's not alone," he declared, the words dramatic echoing. The battle intensified, blows landing with thrilling impact, Zara's shifts clashing against the commander's tech, Jake weaving through laser fire like a ghost. A drone exploded nearby, debris flying, heightening the chaos. In a surprising turn, Jake's device interfaced with the commander's systems, accidentally causing a feedback loop that stunned the hybrid. Zara seized the moment, her tendrils wrapping around him, forcing submission. "Why?" she demanded, voice breaking with dramatic anguish. The answer came in whispers: jealousy, exile, a plot to reclaim the throne through Terra Nova's plight. As guards swarmed in, securing the room, the thrilling high ebbed into a curious aftermath. Jake and Zara stood amid the wreckage, breaths, ragged bodies pressed close, once more. The surprise of survival mingled with the drama of uncovered truths, their bond forged stronger in the fire. But questions lingered, thrilling promises of more to come as the sun rose fully over Zorathia, illuminating a new era. As the sun rose fully over Zorathia, illuminating a new era, the throne room's wreckage seemed almost poetic. In the golden light, shattered crystals glinting like fallen stars, smoke curling lazily from disabled drones, and the subdued invaders kneeling in chains before them. Zara stood tall, her form still partially armored, scales retracting slowly, as if reluctant to let go of the fight, her white hair disheveled in a way that only enhanced her wild beauty. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, the EMP device warm in his pocket. A silent hero in the chaos they'd just quelled. Guards swarmed the space, hauling away the traitorous advisor, and the hybrid commander, her brother of all revelations, whose mechanical eyes dimmed as he was led off, muttering curses about lost legacies. The drama hung thick in the air, a palpable force, every breath feel weighted, every glance between Jake and Zara charged with unspoken implications. "Falsely tazinaltos, Lee." She turned to him, then her emerald eyes softening just a fraction amid the stern mask of royalty, her small elfin ears twitching as distant echoes of alarms faded. "You," she said, her voice a dramatic whisper that cut through the bustle, "have upended my world in a single night. A human of all beings." There was no accusation, only a raw intensity that heightened the moment, making the vast room feel intimately small. Jake felt a flush creep up his neck, not from the battle's adrenaline waning, but from the awkward realization that they were no longer alone. Dozens of eyes were on them, courtiers emerging from hiding, guards pausing in their duties, even a few subdued invaders sneaking glances. Their night of passion, the arena challenged the invasion, it all converged here in this public spectacle, and he suddenly felt exposed, his torn flight suit a poor shield against the scrutiny. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to play it cool, but his foot caught on a piece of debris, sending him stumbling forward a step. Zara caught his arm instinctively, her touch lingering a beat too long, and a ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Jake cleared his throat, injecting a bit of humor to diffuse the tension. "Well, if this is how Zorathia says good morning, I might need to rethink my vacation plans." The quip landed awkwardly, drawing a few hesitant chuckles from the guards, but Zara's lips twitched in amusement, her porcelain skin flushing ever so slightly, a rare crack in her regal composure. The drama escalated in that small gesture. Here was the princess heir to an empire sharing a private joke with a scruffy human pilot amid the ruins of betrayal, but the awkwardness deepened as a cluster of courtiers approached, led by an elderly advisor with flowing robes and antennae that quivered like judgmental fingers. "Your Highness," the advisor intoned, his voice dripping with formal drama, bowing so low his forehead nearly touched the floor. "The council demands an immediate debriefing. And this outsider," his gaze flicked to Jake's eyes, narrowing as if appraising a stray animal that had wandered into the palace. Jake stood straighter but couldn't help feeling like a kid caught sneaking out, except the sneaking involved toppling a conspiracy and sharing a bed with royalty. Zara's hand tightened on his arm, a subtle claim that sent another wave of whispers through the assembly. "He is no outsider," she declared, her tone heightening the drama to operatic levels. "Jake of Terra Nova is my champion. He exposed the rot in our midst and fought by my side. Any who question him questions me." The advisor's antennae drooped, but he pressed on, his voice a mix of deference and thinly veiled disapproval. "As you say, Princess. But the rituals, the binding. Rumors spread like starfire. The court wonders if this alliance extends beyond the battlefield." The implication hung there heavy and awkward, turning the air stifling. Jake felt heat rise to his cheeks. Were they really discussing their intimate encounter in front of an audience? Glanced at Zara, expecting her to bristle, but she met the advisor's gaze with a dramatic flare, her curves accentuated by the remnants of her shifted armor, which clung in ways that drew more than a few lingering looks. "The court can wonder all it likes," she replied coolly, though a hint of humor danced in her eyes as she added, "Perhaps they should focus on repairing the throne room instead of prying into my personal victories." A smattering of laughter echoed, lightening the mood just enough to ease the tension, but Jake couldn't shake the surreal awkwardness. Here he was, a pilot from a backwater colony, thrust into interstellar politics, standing beside a shape-shifting princess who could probably bench press a starfighter. He leaned in closer to her, whispering under his breath, "Do all your family reunions end with laser fights and awkward interrogations?" Zara stifled a laugh, her breath warm against his ear, sending a shiver down his spine that was equal parts reminiscent of their night and heightened by the public eye. "Only the memorable ones," she murmured back, her voice laced with that erotic undertone that made his pulse quicken, despite the circumstances. The drama ratcheted up as more figures entered the fray, a delegation from the outer clans, their holographic projections flickering into existence around the throne. One, a burly alien with furred shoulders and glowing tattoos, boomed in a voice like grinding gravel, "Princess Zara!" "We heard of the incursion. Is Zorathia weakened? We smell opportunity." The threat was veiled, but the awkward positioning was clear, with her brother exposed as a traitor, rivals circled like vultures. Jake felt the shift, the room's energy coiling tighter, and he stepped forward impulsively, his human bravado kicking in. "Weakened just took down a hybrid army with a gadget I jury-rigged from scrap. If that's weak, I'd hate to see your definition of strong." The words tumbled out with a humorous edge, but they landed with dramatic impact, drawing gasps and a few approving nods from Zara's loyalists. The furry delegate's tattoos pulsed angrily, heightening the standoff, but Zara placed a hand on Jake's shoulder, her touch both supportive and possessive. "My champion speaks truth," she announced, her voice resonating with authority. Yet in that moment an awkward mishap unfolded. As she gestured grandly, a loose scale from her armor detached, clattering to the floor with a comical ping that echoed unnaturally loud in the tense silence. Everyone froze, eyes darting to the fallen piece, and Jake couldn't help but snort. Sieven, her armors shedding in protest of boring meetings. The humor broke the ice, eliciting reluctant chuckles from the delegation, diffusing the immediate threat, but underscoring the absurdity of their situation, a human turning royal drama into slapstick. Zara shot him a look that was half exasperated, half endeared, her small ears flushing pink again. The drama pressed on, though, as the advisor cleared his throat dramatically. "We must address the binding ritual. If the human has claimed victory." He trailed off, implying volumes. Jake's mind raced back to their night, the passion, the connection, and now it was fodder for court gossip. Awkwardness piqued his stomach, twisting in a knot of humor and unease. "Wait, binding like space married or something?" He blurted, his voice cracking just enough to add to the comedy. Zara's eyes widened, a rare flicker of uncertainty crossing her features, heightening the intimate drama amid the public spectacle. She pulled him aside slightly into an alcove shadowed by towering pillars of the court, buzzing behind them like a hive. In Zorathia, such challenges can lead to unions, she explained, her voice low and dramatic, her body close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. It's not just physical, it's political. You could be consort ally more. Jake rubbed the back of his neck, chuckling nervously. Consorti came here for food aid, not a crown. Though if it comes with breakfast in bed I might consider. His humor masked the swirling emotions, the thrill of possibility, the drama of commitment, across stars, the sheer awkwardness of proposing, or being proposed to, in the aftermath of battle. But the moment shattered as alarms blared anew, not invasion this time, but an incoming transmission from Terra Nova. The holographic screen materialized, displaying a frantic colony leader, her face etched with desperation. Jake! We've been framed, the shipments were hijacked by Zorathian rogues. We need you back, famine's worsening. The drama surged, layering personal stakes onto the interstellar mess. Zara's hand found his, squeezing in silent support, but the awkward divide yawned, his world starving, hers reeling from treason, and them caught in the middle, bound by a night that now felt like fate's cruel joke. Jake turned to her, the humor fading into earnest intensity. I can't just leave, not after this. But the transmission glitched, revealing intercepted data schematics of Zorathian tech funneled to Terra Nova's enemies. The advisor gasped, dramatically pointing accusatory fingers. Treachery from the humans' kin. The room erupted in chaos, accusations flying, heightening the drama to fever pitch. Jake stood there awkwardly defending his people, while Zara defended him, their alliance teetering on the edge of humorously absurd alliances and heartbreaking rifts. In the midst of it, a lowly servant tripped over the same debris Jake had earlier, spilling a tray of glowing orbs that rolled comically across the floor, one landing at Zara's feet. She picked it up, tossing it to Jake with a wry smile. A signer, just bad luck. The light humor cut through the tension, reminding them of their connection amid the storm. But as debates raged, awkward revelations piled on, hidden messages in the EMP logs showing Jake's unwitting role in the plot planted by the traitor to frame Terra Nova. The drama built relentlessly, each twist pulling them closer yet threatening to tear them apart. Zara pulled him fully into the alcove, now away from prying eyes, her body pressing against his, in a mix of urgency and lingering desire. We unravel this together, she vowed, her voice dramatic and fierce. Jake nodded but couldn't resist adding, as long as it doesn't involve more family surprises. I think one evil sibling is my limit. She laughed softly, the sound a bomb, but the awkward truth lingered. Their bond, forged in passion and battle, now navigated the minefield of politics and deception. As the council convened around them, demands for explanations escalating, Jake felt the weight of worlds on his shoulders. The humor kept him sane, the absurdity of a pilot turned royal suitor, but the drama demanded action. Zara's emerald eyes locked on his, promising more twists, more awkward entanglements, as they stepped back into the fray, united against the galaxy's machinations. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows that mirrored the complexities ahead, each step heightening the stakes in this cosmic dance of fate. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows that mirrored the complexities ahead, each step heightening the stakes in this cosmic dance of fake, Zara and Jake found themselves momentarily separated from the swirling council debates by a discreet side chamber. The advisor's voices faded into a distant hum as she closed the heavy doors behind them, sealing out the chaos for a precious interlude. Her hand lingered on the latch, her porcelain skin still bearing faint marks from the battle, subtle reminders of their shared trials. Jake leaned against the wall, catching his breath, his torn flight suit clinging to him in ways that accentuated the lean muscles beneath, a testament to his enduring strength. The room was smaller, more intimate, adorned with soft tapestries depicting ancient Zorathian legends of love and that had the same exotic blooms that had perfumed their earlier night together. Ankle hide, lapenden. Zara turned to him, her emerald eyes gleaming with a mix of resolve and something deeper, more personal, a spark that had ignited in the arena and burned brighter through every trial. We can't let them dictate our path, she said softly, stepping closer, her white hair cascading over one shoulder like a veil of moonlight. Her gown, repaired hastily by her shifting abilities, hugged her curves with elegant precision, the fabric whispering against her skin as she moved. The awkward entanglements of court politics still echoed in Jake's mind, but here in this stolen moment they dissolved into irrelevance. He reached out, his fingers brushing hers, feeling the familiar warmth that grounded him amid the galactic storm. "Then what do we do?" he asked, his voice low, laced with the same intensity that had drawn them together from the start. She didn't answer with words at first. Instead, she closed the distance between them, her body pressing gently against his, the contact reigniting the flames they'd explored before. Her small elfin ears flushed a delicate pink, a subtle sign of her rising emotions, as her hands slid up his arms, tracing the contours of his biceps with a tenderness that contrasted the fierceness of her warrior spirit. Jake's heart raced, the weight of worlds lifting momentarily as he wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. The intimacy felt natural, inevitable, a refuge from the betrayals and demands outside. Their lips met in a kiss that started slow, exploratory, building on the foundation of their previous connection, soft at first, then deepening with a passion that spoke of unspoken promises. Zara's breath hitched as his hands roamed her back, feeling the smooth, resilient texture of her skin through the thin fabric, her form adapting slightly to fit perfectly against him, as if her alien essence was attuned to his every desire. She guided him toward a plush divan in the corner, the cushions yielding under their weight as they sank down together, never breaking the embrace. The room seemed to pulse with their energy, the long shadows from the windows playing across their forms, highlighting the graceful arch of her neck as she tilted her head back, inviting his lips to trail kisses along her collarbone. A soft sigh escaped her, a sound that sent waves of warmth through Jake, reminding him of how her strength coexisted with this vulnerability shared only with him. He whispered her name against her skin, his voice husky with emotion, as his fingers worked the clasps of her gown with careful reverence. The garment parted like petals unfolding, revealing more of her luminous figure. Her curves bathed in the soft light that made her seem almost ethereal. Zara's hands were equally eager, slipping beneath his suit to explore the firm planes of his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a human rhythm that fascinated her, so different yet so complementary to her own. The moment built gradually, each touch a layer of deepening closeness, their bodies moving in harmony born of trust and attraction. She arched into him, her legs entwining with his, the friction creating a symphony of sensations that left them both breathless. In this private sanctuary, away from prying eyes, they surrendered to the pull between them, their connection evolving into a tender exploration of each other's forms. Jake's caresses were gentle yet insistent, drawing soft murmurs from Zara as she responded in kind, her shape shifting, subtly enhancing the intimacy, making every embrace feel uniquely tailored. The air grew warmer, charged with their shared breaths and quiet affirmations, the outside world fading further as they lost themselves in the rhythm of their union. It was a blend of passion and care, where every movement conveyed the depth of their budding bond. Her hands gripping his shoulders, his lips finding the sensitive spots that made her tremble slightly, their forms intertwining in a dance as old as the stars. Time stretched in that chamber, the sun's rays shifting across the walls as they navigated this deeper level of closeness, each discovery heightening their emotional tie. Zara's emerald eyes locked onto his, at one point filled with a wonder that mirrored his own, a human and a Zorathian princess, defying the odds not just in battle but in this profound sharing of selves. She pulled him even nearer, her voice a whisper amid the quiet intensity. "You make me feel alive in ways I never knew." Jake's response was a soft kiss on her forehead, then lower, reaffirming his presence, his commitment, as they continued to express their connection through touch and closeness. The experience was one of mutual reverence, where the physical melded seamlessly with the emotional, building to peaks of sensation that left them both fulfilled and closer than before. Zara's white hair fanned out across the cushions like a halo, her small ears perked in contentment as they lay entwined, afterward breaths synchronizing in the afterglow. Jake traced idle patterns on her hip, marveling at the softness beneath her impervious exterior while she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady thrum that grounded her amid the chaos. Yet even in this serene aftermath, the drama of their situation lingered at the edges, a gentle reminder that their bond could be the key to resolving the interstellar tensions. Zara lifted her head slightly, her fingers intertwining with his. "This, more than fleeting," she murmured, her tone soft but resolute. Jake nodded, pressing a kiss to her palm, feeling the subtle vibration of her essence, a promise of more to come. The chamber's doors remained closed, granting them this respite, but they both knew the council awaited their alliance, now fortified by this intimate reaffirmation. As the light continued to pour in, illuminating their relaxed forms, Jake couldn't help but smile at the irony. A pilot from a starving colony finding solace in the arms of a princess whose world he had upended. Zara returned the smile, her emerald eyes sparkling with a mix of affection and mischief, as if sensing his thoughts. They rose slowly, redressing with lingering touches that prolonged the moment, each brush of fabric an echo of their closeness. The bond they shared felt unbreakable now, a foundation built on passion and partnership, ready to face whatever twists the galaxy threw next. Stepping back toward the doors hand in hand, they prepared to re-enter the fray, their connection a secret strength amid the public drama. The sun's warmth on their skin mirrored the inner glow they carried, a testament to how far they'd come in so short a time, from challengers in an arena to confidants in every sense. And as the handles turned, opening to the waiting council, Jake squeezed her hand, whispering, "Together then." Zara nodded, her posture regal once more, but with a softness in her gaze reserved only for him. The cosmic dance continued, their steps synchronized in ways that promised enduring harmony. As the handles turned, opening to the waiting council, Jake squeezed her hand, whispering, "Together then." Zara nodded, her posture regal once more, but with a softness in her gaze reserved only for him. The cosmic dance continued, their steps synchronized in ways that promised enduring harmony. They emerged into the grand hall, where the council members had gathered in a semicircle around the repaired holographic throne, their faces a tapestry of concern, curiosity, and barely concealed ambition. The air hummed with the low buzz of discussions, advisors murmuring over datapads that flickered with reports of the invasion's aftermath, damaged shields mended, prisoners interrogated, alliances tentatively reaffirmed. Sunlight streamed through the vast windows, bathing the room in a warm glow that seemed to mock the underlying tensions, as if the galaxy itself was horde resolution. Zara released his hand with a subtle reluctance, her fingers trailing away like a final caress, before she strode forward with the confidence of a born ruler. Jake followed a step behind, his presence drawing immediate attention, whispers rippling through the assembly like waves on a tranquil sea disturbed by an unexpected stone. The elderly advisor from earlier bowed, slightly, his antennae quivering as he addressed her. "Your Highness, the interrogations yield fruit. Your brother confesses to allying with fringe elements, but he insists the true architect remains hidden. We must consolidate power swiftly." The words carried a weight that thickened the atmosphere, each syllable heightening the sense of impending decisions that could reshape Zorathia. Jake scanned the faces around them, noting the mix of loyalty and opportunism. His mind, still buzzing from their intimate respite, sharpened on the practicalities: Terra Nova's famine, the framed invasion, the need for aid shipments. He opened his mouth to speak, to advocate for his people, but Zara raised a hand, her voice cutting through the murmurs with effortless authority. "We will hear all reports, but first acknowledge the role of my champion. Without Jake we might have fallen." Nods rippled through the group, some genuine, others perfunctory, and Jake felt a swell of pride mingled with the lingering warmth of her touch on his skin. As the discussions unfolded, details emerged like pieces of a vast puzzle. The hybrid commander Zara's sibling, exiled long ago for forbidden experiments, had forged pacts with rogue traders funneling Zorathian tech to exacerbate Terra Nova's crisis, all to destabilize the throne. He sought to reclaim what he lost. One interrogator reported projecting holographic transcripts that danced in the air like ethereal ghosts. Zara's expression remained composed, her white hair catching the light as she leaned forward, her curves subtly outlined by the gown that had been hastily refastened, a reminder to Jake alone of their private world. But beneath her poise, he sensed the turmoil, the betrayal of family cutting deeper than any blade. Jake contributed where he could, his pilot's perspective, offering insights into the hijacked shipments, his voice steady, despite the surreal shift from lover to diplomat. My colony's logs show discrepancies, transports vanishing mid-jump, rerouted to black market hubs. If we trace the energy signatures. The council listened, intrigued by this human's ingenuity, and for a moment, the room felt united, the drama of the morning giving way to collaborative momentum. Zara glanced at him, often her emerald eyes conveying silent approval, a thread of their bond, weaving through the proceedings like an invisible tether. Hours slipped by in this rhythm, the sun arcing higher, casting evolving shadows that mirrored the shifting alliances. Breaks were called for refreshments, glowing elixirs and exotic fruits, served on floating platters, and during one such pause, Zara pulled Jake aside to a balcony overlooking Zorath's sprawling gardens where crystalline flowers bloomed in hypnotic patterns. The breeze carried scents of alien pollen, sweet and invigorating, stirring memories of their closeness. "You're handling this well," she said, her hand brushing his arm, the contact sending a familiar spark through him. "Better than most Zorathians would." Jake smiled, leaning on the railing, his eyes tracing the horizon where distant spires pierced the sky. "I've dodged worse in asteroid fields. But this us amid all this, it's like flying blind through a nebula. Thrilling but unpredictable." She laughed softly, a sound that warmed him more than the sun, her small elfin ears perking with genuine delight. "Unpredictable is our strength, together we." Her words cut off as a subtle vibration hummed from her wrist communicator, a sleek band that glowed with incoming data. She tapped it, projecting a small hologram, a secure message from the interrogation chambers. "More confessions," she murmured, her brow furrowing as she scanned the text. Jake peered over her shoulder, his curiosity piqued, the peaceful interlude fracturing into renewed intrigue. The message detailed the hybrid's final ramblings, coordinates to a hidden outpost, whispers of a greater shadow pulling strings across galaxies, involving not just Zorathia but human colonies as well. "We must investigate," Zara decided, her voice resolute, snapping the hologram shut. They returned to the council, sharing the intel, and plans formed swiftly, a reconnaissance mission to the outpost with Jake volunteering his piloting skills. "If it's tied to Terra Nova, I'm in," he insisted, earning approving nods. Preparations buzzed. Ships fueled teams, assembled, the drama building toward action. By late afternoon, they boarded a sleek Zorathian cruiser, its hull shimmering like Zara's skin, engines humming with quiet power. The crew, a mix of loyal guards and tech specialists, eyed Jake with a blend of respect and wariness, but Zara's presence quelled any doubts. As the ship lifted off, leaving Zorath's atmosphere in a blaze of thrusters, Jake settled into the co-pilot's seat, his hands familiar on the controls, despite the alien interface. Zara sat beside him, her gown exchanged for a form-fitting flight suit that accentuated her sensual figure, practical, yet alluring. "This outpost, it's in neutral space, abandoned cycles ago," she explained, her fingers dancing over nav charts. "Whatever awaits will face it as one." The journey passed in a blur of hyperspace jump, stars streaking past like fleeting dreams. They shared quiet conversations in the dim cabin light, her head resting on his shoulder during lulls, the bond deepening with each shared secret, her childhood under the weight of royalty, his solitary flights through the void. Tension mounted as they neared the coordinates, sensors pinging faint energy signatures. "Something's active down there," Jake noted, his voice tight with anticipation. The ship descended through turbulent clouds to a barren rock of a planet, the outpost a cluster of derelict domes half buried in dust storms. They disembarked in envirosuits, the wind howling like a beast, visibility low. Zara led the way, her shape shifting, enhancing her senses, tendrils extending to probe the shadows. Jake followed, blaster in hand, his heart pounding with the thrill of the unknown. The team fanned out, securing perimeters, but as they breached the central dome, an eerie silence greeted them, consoles flickering with residual power, data logs intact. "Jackpot," Jake muttered, interfacing his portable scanner with a terminal, pulling up files that revealed shipments, alliances, and something more. Zara hovered over his shoulder, her breath warm through the suit's comms. "What do you see?" Files scrolled, records of experiments, hybrid tech, but then a name flashed, his own. Jake froze, his blood turning cold. This can't be." Deeper dives uncovered vidlogs. A younger Jake, not in his pilot gear, but in a lab coat collaborating with Zorathian exiles. Memories flooded back, suppressed fragmented implants. Amnesia twist hit like a supernova. He wasn't just a pilot from Terra Nova. He was a sleeper agent engineered in secret labs, his human facade hiding Zorathian DNA spliced in during forbidden experiments, Zara's brothers doing to infiltrate and destabilize from within. The surprise crashed over him, his world shattering. "Zara, I didn't know," he gasped, turning to her, but her eyes widened in mirrored shock as she accessed the same files. "You're one of us May brothers' creation?" The team, oblivious, continued searches, but in that moment the powerful revelation hung between them. Jake, the human hero, was partially alien his entire life, a constructed lie to serve the very conspiracy they'd fought. Betrayal. Destiny. The air thickened with unspoken questions, the outpost shadows closing in like accusations. Zara stepped back, her form flickering uncertainly, emerald eyes searching his face for truth. All this time the challenge, our connection, it was engineered. Jake shook his head vehemently, the surprise twisting into determination. "No, whatever they did, this is real. I feel it." But doubt seeded the twist, unraveling certainties. Alarms blared suddenly, traps activated, the outpost awakening with automated defenses. Drones swarmed, lasers firing, forcing them into action. Amid the chaos of this personal earthquake, they fought side by side, her tendrils shielding him, his shots precise despite the turmoil in his mind. "We get out, then we figure this?" Zara shouted over the din, her voice a lifeline. Escaping in a hail of fire, the ship rocketing away. Jake stared at his reflection in the viewport, human features, hiding alien secrets. The powerful twist had upended everything. He was the bridge between worlds, not by choice, but by design. Zara reached for his hand, her touch tentative now, the bond tested but unbroken. "Who are you really?" She whispered, the question hanging like a star about to explode. As they hurtled back to Zorathia, the revelation pulsed, between them surprising layers peeling back to reveal a deeper conspiracy. Jake's suppressed memories flickered, flashes of labs, injections, a mission to challenge the princess and claim the throne from within. But love, unforeseen, had derailed the plot. The twist promised more surprises, their alliance, now forged in the fire of truth's harsh light, ready to confront the architects who had played God with their fates. The galaxy spun on, indifferent, but their story twisted into uncharted territory, hearts entangled in ways no experiment could predict. As they hurtled back to Zorathia, the revelation pulsed between them, surprising layers peeling back to reveal a deeper conspiracy. Jake's suppressed memories flickered, flashes of labs, injections, a mission to challenge the princess and claim the throne from within. But love, unforeseen, had derailed the plot. The twist promised more surprises, their alliance, now forged in the fire of truth's harsh light, ready to confront the architects who had played God with their fates. The galaxy spun on, indifferent, but their story twisted into uncharted territory, hearts entangled in ways no experiment could predict. Inside the cruiser's dimly lit cabin, the hum of the engines provided a steady backdrop to the storm, brewing within each vibration, echoing the turmoil engendered as he stared. Stars hit his streaking stars, his reflection in the viewport, now a stranger's face, familiar, yet laced with alien secrets. Zara sat across from him, her flight suit still hugging her curves like a second skin, her white hair slightly tousled from the outpost skirmish, framing her small elfin ears that twitched with every subtle shift in the ship's course. She watched him intently, her emerald eyes a swirl of emotions, betrayals, sharp edge softened by the bond they'd built, curiosity warring with concern. The cabin felt smaller than before, the space between them charged with unspoken words, heightening the drama of their sudden isolation, amid the crew's distant chatter from the bridge. "Jake," she said finally, her voice a gentle probe into the silence, leaning forward so that her hand could reach his knee, the touch tentative yet grounding. "Those memories. They're resurfacing, aren't they? Tell me what you see." He turned to her, his blue eyes haunted the awkward weight of his newfound identity, pressing down like an ill-fitting suit. How did one casually admit to being a lab-grown hybrid engineered for espionage? "It's like puzzle pieces falling into place, wrong place," he replied, his tone laced with a forced lightness, trying to inject a bit of humor to cut through the tension. "One minute I'm a simple pilot dodging space junk. The next I'm part Zorathian secret sauce. If this were a holodrama, I'd be yelling plot twist and demanding a refund. The quip fell flat at first, but Zara's lips quirked in a reluctant smile, her pointed ears flushing slightly, easing the moment just enough to keep the air breathable. But the drama escalated as more fragments surfaced, images of sterile chambers, her brother's voice echoing commands, "You'll infiltrate, seduce, subvert." Jake rubbed his temples, the awkward realization dawning that their entire connection might have been programmed, a synthetic spark designed to ignite at the right moment. What if this us is just code running its course? He asked, his voice cracking with raw vulnerability, heightening the intimate stakes in the confined space. Zara's hand tightened on his knee, her form shifting subtly, as if her body instinctively wanted to envelop him, protect him from his own doubts. "No," she countered firmly, scooting closer, until their thighs brushed the contact, sending a familiar warmth through him, despite the chaos. "What we have defies any experiment. I felt it in the arena before any revelations. You're more than their creation, you're mine." The words hung there, dramatic and possessive, but the ship's sudden lurch interrupted a minor turbulence that sent a data pad sliding across the floor. Jake bent to retrieve it, only to bump heads with Zara, as she did the same, their foreheads colliding with a soft thud that elicited a shared wince, and then laughter, a awkward, tension-breaking chuckle that echoed in the cabin. "See, even the universe is trying to knock some sense into us," Jake quipped, rubbing his head with exaggerated drama, his humor a lifeline in the storm. Zara laughed too, the sound melodic and genuine, her emerald eyes sparkling, as she helped him up, their hands lingering in a clasp that felt both comforting and charged. Yet the reprieve was short-lived. As they settled back, the comms crackled to life with an urgent hail from Zorathia. The elderly advisor's hologram flickered into view, his antennae waving frantically. "Princess!" We've decoded more from the prisoners. The conspiracy runs deeper, council members implicated, including Lord Vexen." Zara's face paled, her grip on Jake's hand turning vis-like, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Lord Vexen, her trusted mentor, the one who'd overseen her training, now a potential traitor. The awkwardness compounded as the advisor's gaze shifted to Jake, narrowing suspiciously. "And the humaner hybrid, his role must be scrutinized. Return at once for tribunal." The transmission cut, leaving them in stunned silence. The label hybrid hanging like an unwelcome guest at a family dinner. Jake shifted uncomfortably, the term making his skin crawl as if he'd suddenly sprouted extra limbs in public. "Tribunal sounds like a bad blind date with judges," he muttered, attempting humor to mask the rising panic, but his voice wavered, betraying the drama churning inside. Zara pulled him into an embrace, her body molding against his, with that effortless adaptability, her scent a mix of exotic blooms and adrenaline enveloping him. "They won't touch you," she whispered fiercely, her breath warm against his neck. The closeness a balm amid the escalating storm. But even in her arms, awkward doubts crept in. Was this affection real, or a remnant of his programming? Thought twisted like a knife, heightening the emotional stakes as the ship plunged toward Zorathia. Upon landing, the palace grounds swarmed with guards, their energy lances at the ready, escorting them not to the throne room, but to a fortified chamber deep within the citadel, a holding area disguised as guest quarters, complete with plush furnishings that did little to hide the force fields humming at the doors. The drama intensified as Lord Vexen himself awaited them, his towering frame clad in ornate robes, his scaled face etched with feigned concern. "Princess, this hybrid farce, it's a ploy to divide us," he boomed, his voice dramatic and accusatory, gesturing at Jake as if he were a faulty gadget. Zara stepped protectively in front, her form rippling with restrained power, but the awkward situation unfolded like a poorly scripted play. Vexen's eyes lingered too long on her, a hint of possessiveness that made Jake's hybrid blood boil. "Farcer, truth you've hidden." Zara shot back, her tone laced with betrayal's edge, heightening the confrontation. Jake, feeling like an exhibit in a zoo, cleared his throat awkwardly. "Hey, if I'm the farce, at least make me the funny kind, complete with bad jokes and zero throne-stealing ambitions." The humor landed unexpectedly, drawing a snort from one guard, but Vexen's glare sharpened the drama, coiling tighter. As interrogations began, memories flooded Jake, mid-questioning flashes of Vexen in the labs overseeing the splicing. You were there." Jake accused, his voice rising dramatically, pointing a finger that trembled with revelation. The room froze, awkward accusations flying as Vexen stammered denials, his composure cracking like thin ice. Zara's eyes widened, the betrayal cutting deep, her hand finding Jake's in a silent vow amid the chaos. Guards hesitated, loyalties fracturing, heightening the standoff to operatic levels. In a burst of awkward heroism, Jake activated a hidden comms jammer from his suit, leftover from his programming, disrupting Vexen's escape signal, leading to a comedic scramble as the Lord tripped over his own robes in panic. "Not so graceful now, are we?" Jake quipped, the humor slicing through the tension as guards finally restrained Vexen, his dramatic pleas echoing, "It's for Zorathia." The revelations poured out in custody, Vexen confessing to masterminding the hybrid program with Zara's brother, aiming to install puppets on thrones across galaxies. Jake's creation was the prototype designed to bond with Zara and manipulate her rule. The drama peaked as Zara confronted him, her voice trembling with rage. "You twisted lives for power." Vexen's sneer twisted the knife, and it worked until the human flaw, emotion. The awkward truth settled like dust after a storm. Jake's feelings, born of splicing, had evolved beyond control, turning tool into ally. In the aftermath, sequestered in quarters under protection, Jake and Zara faced the personal fallout. She paced, her curves swaying with agitated grace while he sat awkwardly, probing his memories for more traps. "What if there's a kill switch in me?" he joked, weakly, humor his shield. Boom, mid-kiss, and poof, no more hybrid hubby. Zara stopped, pulling him up into a fierce hug, her laughter mingling with tears. "Then we'll defuse it together, you fool." The embrace deepened the drama, their bond a defiant flame against the conspiracy's shadows. But the awkward situations multiplied as council summons arrived, demanding Jake's debriefing, a euphemism for dissection. Perhaps hiding in plain sight, they navigated secret passages. Jake's hybrid senses awakening awkwardly, enhanced hearing picking up guards' gossip about the princess's pet project. "Petty'll show them pet," he grumbled humorously, earning Zara's amused eye roll. Drama heightened with close calls, ducking into alcoves, bodies pressed close, breaths quickened not just from fear, but lingering desire. "This is no time for distractions," she whispered, but her hands betrayed her, tracing his back. A pivotal moment came in a hidden archive decoding final files. The conspiracy spanned empires with Terra Nova as bait. Jake's full awakening surged, tendrils emerging from his arms in an awkward, uncontrolled burst, knocking over ancient artifacts with a crash that echoed comically. "Whoa, personal space invaders," he exclaimed, retracting them sheepishly, as Zara stared, then burst into laughter. "You're evolving," she said, the drama shifting to wonder, her touch exploring the new extensions with intimate curiosity. As alarms blared from their mishap, they fled hand in tendril, the pursuit heightening every step. Jake's humor kept spirits up. "If I grow wings next, we're flying economy class out of here." Zara's resolve hardened, her love anchor. "Wings or not, you're mine, hybrid human all." The chase led to the throne room bursting in amid a council vote on their fate, Vexen's allies pushing for execution. The drama climaxed in confrontation, Zara declaring Jake's innocence, his hybrid nature proof of the plot's failure. Awkward alliances formed as loyalists rallied, but a betrayer's blaster fired Jake's tendrils, deflecting it instinctively, saving her in a heroic, clumsy whirl that sent furniture flying, laughter mixed with gasps, the humor underscoring his growth. Vexen's faction crumbled, arrests swift, the room erupting in chaotic resolution. In the quiet after, Zara and Jake stood amid the debris, her head on his shoulder. From challenger to savior, quite the upgrade, she teased, humor lightening the drama. He grinned, awkward no more. "And you thought humans were fragile." Their kiss sealed the moment, futures intertwined, the galaxy's indifference shattered by their defiant union. But whispers of greater threats lingered, promising more twists in their entangled path. As whispers of regrets lingered, promising more twists in their entangled path, Zara and Jake pulled apart from their kiss, the throne room's echoes fading into a hush that spoke of hard-won peace, at least for the moment. The council members, once divided in their loyalties, now stood in a loose circle, around them faces etched with a mix of awe and relief as the last of Vexen's allies were led away in shimmering restraints. Sunlight poured through the grand windows, casting a golden halo over the debris-strewn floor, turning the chaos of battle into a canvas of triumph. Zara's hand remained in Jake's, her fingers interlaced with his in a grip that felt both possessive and reassuring, her light hair catching the light like threads of pure starshine, her flight suit torn in places from her sensual foigntoral form accentuating the graceful curves that had first captivated him in the arena. A reminder that beneath the warrior princess lay a woman whose heart beat as fiercely as any human's. Jake glanced around, his hybrid senses now awakening more controllably, like a muscle flexing, after long disuse, picking up the subtle shifts in the air, the guards' relaxed postures, the advisors' murmured approvals, even the faint hum of the palace systems rebooting after the disruptions. It was surreal, this shift from fugitive to celebrated figure, but the warmth of Zara's touch grounded him. "So what's next?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of that trademark humor, though softer now, laced with the exhaustion of revelations and rescues. "Do we get a parade, or is it straight to paperwork for saving the Empire?" Zara's emerald eyes sparkled with amusement, her small elfin ears perking slightly as she tilted her head, a gesture that had become endearingly familiar. "Parades can wait," she replied, her tone warm and melodic, drawing him closer. "First we heal. Zorathia owes us that much." The council dispersed gradually, tasks assigned with efficient urgency, securing the borders, aiding Terra Nova with immediate shipments, and rooting out any lingering conspirators. But, as the room emptied, leaving them in relative solitude, amid the grandeur of the throne, a massive crystalline seat that pulsed with inner light, Zara led Jake to a side alcove where plush seats overlooked the sprawling gardens below. The view was breathtaking, fields of glowing flora undulating under the twin suns, a testament to Zorathia's resilient beauty. She sank onto the cushions, pulling him down beside her, their bodies fitting together, naturally her head resting on his shoulder. The drama of the day ebbed into a quiet intimacy, the kind where words flowed easily, unburdened by immediate peril. "You know," Jake began, his arm wrapping around her waist, feeling the subtle vibration of her shape-shifting essence, now calm and harmonious. "When I raised my hand in that arena, I thought I was just buying time for negotiations. Never imagined I'd end up this." He gestured vaguely at himself, at the faint tendrils that occasionally flickered along his skin, like curious extensions of his will. Zara lifted her head, her porcelain skin glowing softly in the light, and traced a finger along one of those tendrils, watching it respond to her touch with a gentle curl. "This," she echoed, her voice rich with emotion, "is what makes you extraordinary. Not the experiments, not the hybrid blood. You, the man who chose love over programming, who fought for what's right, even when the stars aligned against him." Her words carried a depth that stirred something profound in him, a sense of belonging that transcended worlds. They sat like that for a while, the suns dipping lower, painting the sky in hues of crimson and violet. Memories replayed in Jake's mind. Not the fabricated ones from labs, but the real ones. Their first clash in the arena, the electric tension of their night together, the battles fought back to back. He turned to her, his free hand cupping her cheek, feeling the smoothness of her skin, so impervious yet so yielding to him. "And you," he said softly, his blue eyes locking onto hers. "You're the storm I never saw coming. Fierce, beautiful, unbreakable. I came here a pilot, I'm leaving. Well, not leaving, I hope. As something more." Zara's lips curved into a smile, full and inviting as she leaned in, their breaths mingling in the space between. "You're not leaving," she whispered, her voice a promise wrapped in desire. "Zorathia is your home now, if you'll have it. If you'll have me." The kiss that followed was different from the others, less urgent, more profound, a sealing of fates, rather than a spark of passion. Her lips were soft against his, tasting of the elixir they'd shared, and the salt of battles won her body, pressing closer, curves molding to his frame in a way that felt like coming home. Jake's hands roamed her back, fingers tangling in her white hair, pulling her nearer as the world outside faded. She responded with equal fervor, her small ears flushing with that telltale pink, her form adapting subtly to heighten the closeness, making every touch feel electric yet tender. It was a moment of pure connection, where the sci-fi wonders of their lives, the shape-shifting, the hybrid revelations, blend seamlessly with the timeless pull of romance. As they parted breathless and content, a soft chime echoed from the throne room's comm system, a message from Terra Nova, relayed through secured channels. The colony leader's hologram appeared, her face lined with gratitude, rather than desperation. Jake, the shipments arrived. Food tech, it's turning the tide. But more than that, words spreading, a human hero bridging worlds. Zorathia's alliance is solid. Thank you. The image faded, leaving Jake with a swell of emotion, his eyes misting slightly. Zara squeezed his hand, her emerald gaze proud. See, you're not just saving one world, you're uniting them. He chuckled, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Yeah, well, don't let it go to my head. I still trip over my own feet half the time. Her laughter joined his light and freeing, dissolving any remnants of awkwardness from their journey. Days turned to weeks in Zorathia's embrace, the palace becoming a hub of renewal. Jake integrated his hybrid abilities with guidance from Zara, training in sunlit courtyards where her tendrils danced with his, turning potential weapons into tools of creation, sculpting energy fields, healing minor wounds, even enhancing their private moments with subtle enhancements that brought them closer in ways words couldn't describe. The court, once skeptical, warmed to him. Banquets where he regaled them with tales of human ingenuity, awkward at first, but growing into legends that inspired. Zara stood by his side, her elegant gowns flowing like liquid starlight, her sensual presence a constant draw, but it was her intellect and strength that truly commanded respect. One evening, under the twin moon's silvery glow, they stood on the palace balcony, the gardens alive with bioluminescent blooms that pulsed like heartbeats. Zara turned to him, her white hair swaying in the breeze, her body draped in a gown that hugged her curves with regal allure. I've been thinking, she said, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability that made his heart ache with affection. The throne, it's mine by right, but ruling alone, it's not what I want anymore. Jake's brow furrowed, but before he could speak, she continued, her hands taking his. Rule with me, Jake. As equals. Consort partner, whatever title fits. We've proven humanity's worth your worth. Let's build a future where worlds don't just ally, they thrive together. The proposal hung in the air, dramatic and heartfelt, the moons witnessing like silent guardians. Jake's mind raced through it all, the challenge that started everything, the battles, the revelations, the love that had blossomed against all odds. He pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead, then her pointed ear, eliciting a soft shiver from her. Yes, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. 1,000 times yes. From arena foes to galactic rulers, sounds like the perfect sci-fi story. She laughed, the sound echoing into the night as their lips met again, sealing the vow under the stars. Their union became legend. The human hybrid and the Zorathian princess, symbols of unity in a divided galaxy. Terra Nova flourished with Zorathian aid innovations flowing between worlds, hybrid tech healing famines, shape-shifting alloys revolutionizing ships. Jake's colony honored him with statues, but he preferred the quiet life with Zara, stolen moments in hidden chambers, where passion reignited under moonlit skies, her body entwining with his in dances of love and exploration. Her curves pressed against him, skin warm, and inviting, their connections deepening with every shared breath, every whispered promise. Greater threats did arise, rogue empires, ancient anomalies, but they faced them together, Jake's ingenuity complementing Zara's power, their bond, an unbreakable force. In the end, it wasn't just about conquest or survival, it was about love transcending stars, a human heart proving that even in the vast cosmos, connection was the ultimate strength. As they stood on that balcony years later, watching their worlds thrive, Jake held her close, knowing their story was far from over, but it was theirs, eternally intertwined, a beacon of hope in the infinite night.